What's up, everybody? Welcome, welcome. Hope everyone's doing good. Back with another update for y'all. Hope everyone is doing fantastic out there. So we got quite a bit of information here for y'all. Got some big changes on the forecast track, and all kinds of stuff we're gonna look into. But what's up, everybody? Welcome, welcome. Let's see who we got here today so far. We have Abby. What's up, Abby, if you're still here? What's up, Mark? Good to see ya. I'm going to give it a second for everybody to come in here because usually it's a little bit delayed, but it's all good. What's up, Chris? You got it's Friday? Heck yeah, dude. What's up, Kim? Saying hey, Andrew. What's up? Good to see ya. Hope you're doing good. Anyways, folks, well, we got some new updates here on the tropics for y'all. We're going to switch over to sat mode. We're going to take a look at the satellite imagery here. Let's pull up the main development region. There you go. There she is. So it's actually a hurricane now. Yesterday evening, we were talking about how we were expecting this thing to become a hurricane today, and there it is. It is a hurricane. Let's see here. What's up, Sonya? Let's see here. What's up, K-Jack? Say hey, Andrew Mods, everyone. What's up, my friend? Let's see. Shayla says, are we going to hurricane this week? Question mark. Abilene. If you're talking about Abilene, Texas, absolutely not. What's up, Abby? Good to see you. Hope you're doing good. Anyways, folks, well, this is it right now. We are definitely looking a lot better here. We got some really strong convection going on here. You can see it looks like it might be trying to kind of clear out a little eye here, which I would not be surprised if we do get an eye within the next couple of days or whatnot. Anyways, but it is currently at Category 1. You can see in the top left the current activity on the system here. It is a Category 1 storm. We are talking sustained winds of 75 miles per hour, as well as the central low is down to 993 millibars, moving to the moving to the west-northwest at 17 miles per hour. Now, according to this, we are actually gusting over 90, more than likely, especially within those, deep convective bands within the core of the storm. That's kind of where you can really start to see, some really, really strong winds here. But it does look like we're starting to get maybe some outer bands out here by the Antilles. Now, we do have, I'm going to go and bring this up, we do have some tropical storm watches in effect for some of the northern islands. By the way, the system in the Gulf that we were watching, it did not develop. Honestly, I didn't really see too much on it. It was just basically a big cluster of thunderstorms. So that's the last update. We're going to talk about this guy. 0% chance of formation, not expected. Everything's pretty much diminished here. But in terms of Erin, that's still where we need to keep our eyes on. But yeah, like I was mentioning, though, we do have some watches you can see for those northern islands out here. Let's go ahead and get the interactive map going here so you guys can kind of see that a little bit better. So those yellow areas here, these are the tropical storm watches. Now, tropical storm watches mean that, tropical storm conditions are possible in the future. Just remain alert for warnings. Warnings mean it's imminent. Watches just mean, watch out, essentially. But we do have some of those in effect here, up towards areas out there by, Barbuda. Barbuda Island here, we have those, St. Martin. We do have ourselves, some of those tropical storm watches. So, yeah, those are for, kind of the northern islands here, as you can see. Does not include the Virgin Islands or Puerto Rico here, I believe. Are these the Virgin Islands? Yeah, these are the Virgin Islands here. Just east of the Virgin Islands here. So, like I said, the system's just going to kind of graze to the north of these areas here. Tropical storm watches, those are not guaranteed to turn into warnings, but if you're out there, it wouldn't hurt just to keep an eye on it. Honestly, the good news is that the main part of the system is going to be just north of you guys, so we're probably not going to see a lot of anything going on out there. But anyways, yeah, so on a cone here, as we approach tomorrow morning, we are expecting some strengthening here, up to 86 mile an hour sustained with gusts up to 104. By tomorrow morning here on the Hurricane Center. We are expected to become a Category 2 tomorrow by the afternoon, 2 p.m. Eastern on the 16th for tomorrow. We're expected to be over 100 mile per hour sustained, gusting up to right around nearly 130 or so. And as we work our way over here into basically the morning of the 17th, which that would be there for Sunday morning, that's when we're expected to transition from hurricane to major hurricane, being category 3 or greater. And unfortunately, this thing is just going to continue to get even stronger as it continues working its way northwest. Like I've been mentioning the last couple of days, once the system works its way into these waters out here, east of the Bahamas, north of like the Dominican Republic, north of Puerto Rico, these waters out here are going to be very favorable for rapid strengthening here on this system. The waters out there, first of all, are about like 29, 30 degrees Celsius. The sea surface temperatures, which are extremely warm. That's not the only thing. There's not much wind shear that would be acting against the storm, to rapidly destabilize it. Doesn't seem to be a concern. And in terms of the moisture levels, it seems like the models still continue to show the storm, holding a fair amount of moisture as it does work its way into these waters. So unfortunately, this is kind of just like a breeding ground for these systems, allowing for it to quickly really grow and, really grow in strength here. So, and of course, we are expecting this thing to become a Category 4 here. It's going to probably be at its strongest once we approach our way into the afternoon of the 18th, once again in those waters there. It's going to be at its prime time here. Later in the forecast, there's a little bit of talk about maybe some wind shear getting to it, once it works its way up here, just east of the Mid-Atlantic. But as you can see, we're still expected to be a Category 4 for quite some time as we do pull to the north. So at this point in time, it is safe to say, Florida, you guys are good. We're not getting a hurricane out here. I didn't really think Florida would get it, to be honest with you. But yeah, Florida's at this point in the green. However, I will tell you this. There is likely still going to be some impacts even for some of those coastal areas in Florida. Just because of the sheer size of the storm, it's actually expected to get larger. That wind field is expected to get a lot bigger. And because of that, that's going to really be able to move around some water. That's the thing about these tropical systems is that they can really move around some water here, especially, once they get up into strength. But yeah, so that is kind of what we're expecting, just gradual northwesterly movement for the next couple of days. Then we're going to pull to the north here pretty much on, this is for the 18th here. It kind of looks like we're really going to start pulling to the north here on the 18th overall. And then, of course, as of right now, it looks like we could squeeze between Bermuda and the United States. Once again, still no imminent risks. No imminent danger for the United States right now. Same thing for Bermuda. There's no immediate danger for us out here. The system is, more than likely just going to squeeze between Bermuda and the United States. However, still don't let your guard down. We'll keep an eye on it. Most of the models actually do have this thing just kind of steering out to sea, which hopefully that would, be the case. That would be the best case scenario, essentially, which, it definitely looks like it. So that's that. But yeah, we are expecting to get up to Category 4, and on the forecast track, we have maximum sustained winds of 145 miles an hour. That's about like 12 mile an hour sustained off from a Cat 5. And I know a lot of you people are probably wondering, is this storm going to become a Category 5? As of now, it doesn't look like it. We cannot fully rule anything out here with that, but, whenever it comes to it, there's not a lot of guidance that suggests anything up to Category 5, so I'm just going to go ahead and say that. So, and we're not expecting it, although I wouldn't say it's impossible. But at the current moment, it is unlikely. Looking at the intensity guidance here, this is from the main hurricane models and stuff, as you guys can see. There still is a pretty big spread of uncertainty in the storm strength. You can see these numbers down here. This is the forecast hour, so 24 hours out, 48 hours out. 72 hours out, 3 days, 96, 4 days, 5 days, 6 days, and 7 days. So this just goes throughout the next 7 days, essentially. But yeah, kind of grabbing the median point here, roughly, of the models, you can see that, we are expecting some rapid strengthening here with the system, easily getting us into Category 3. There's a handful of models that does suggest us getting into Cat 4. As you can see, we do have a singular model showing Cat 5, which, like I mentioned, it's kind of unlikely at this point here. I don't think, at least from the guidance that we have available to us now, I don't think it'll get near Cat 5, but I don't think it'll get to Cat 5. It's going to get near it, because on the current forecast, we have 145 sustained. That's only 12 mile an hour sustained short. So, it's not super, super far off, and, I wouldn't completely rule it out. But, we'll have to see what happens. But yeah, so there's a little bit of disagreement there. However, in terms of the spaghetti models, in terms of the track, we got some pretty good agreement starting to go on here. You can see that all the models are on board with that northerly movement now. Looks like everything's just going to be to the west of Bermuda. Bermuda's still likely going to have some forms of impact, especially out there by the coastal areas. And this system will just remain east of the U.S. East Coast here. So it looks like it's just more than likely just going to kind of steer its way out here to sea, hopefully. Still not too sure if there's going to be any impacts out there by like Newfoundland or anywhere out there, but those areas should obviously still monitor the situation here. We can't really look too far out there by Newfoundland. It's just a little too far in the forecast, but at this point in time, it's pretty safe to say that the system will definitely likely just kind of pull to the north here, just kind of squeeze in between Bermuda, keep east of the U.S. East Coast here more than likely. So that's certainly some good news. Throughout the next 3 days, you can see the next 72 hours, we are pretty much within pretty short distance here. The models are pretty tight, which indicates some good agreement here. And even in the far end of the forecast, you can see that they're a lot closer than they were. So once again, this system does look like it's just going to mostly stay out to sea, hopefully. But still, shouldn't fully let our guards down. I mean, we'll continue watching it. Once again, anything past the cone is uncertain here. Like I was mentioning, some of the models as we're going to look into suggesting maybe getting close to Newfoundland. I cannot rule it out completely. I do need you guys to be on the lookout and whatnot, but no imminent danger for you guys as of now. But yeah, I mean, the cone here is just west of Bermuda, just east of the United States. Once again, Florida at this point, we are not expecting any landfall, of course. The system is going to be remaining here to the east. Now, looking over here to the models, we're going to do a little bit of a dive into the individual model runs here. I'm going to go ahead and tell you this. Don't be surprised if we start to see some more tropical activity in the future. GFS has been pretty consistent, not just GFS, but other models have been consistent of maybe some more systems to follow. So looking at the GFS here, we continue working our way down in time. You can kind of see another wave here from the GFS develop. This is, within the next 2 days or so. But GFS has this thing going through those really, really warm waters. Once again, this is where I do expect the most strengthening to occur. Pressure really, really drops. And then once we kind of get here just west of Bermuda, it's going to start to weaken as it starts to encounter a little bit of wind shear. Now, this is where I say we cannot be too sure about Newfoundland. The cyclone is going to be just relatively close to the south of Newfoundland, according to GFS here, before kind of getting, shot up into the Arctic Circle. But, at least for the track here, it looks like, according to GFS, we'll likely just stay west of Bermuda, just east of the U.S. East Coast. However, like I mentioned, though, we cannot rule out any impacts, coastally. I mean, there's likely going to be some big waves, some rip currents and all that concern for a lot of the U.S. East Coast. So that's something we still need to look into. And I mean, even for Bermuda here, let's take a look at the GFS here on that here. Let's go 12 UTC. So you can see Bermuda. You can see that those ISO bars, have Bermuda, in the pressure of about 1,002 to 998 or something like that. Between there. And looking at those lower level winds, I mean, in theory, GFS does suggest that we could maybe see some tropical storm conditions out here by Bermuda. It's not for sure, but yeah, GFS does suggest that. As you can see, there's the island of Bermuda, and you can see that we are within that wind field here of about 45 sustained, according to the GFS, which we'll see. Once again, that's not final at this point in time. Euro, the ECMWF on the other hand, it's a little tricky, but yeah, this just keeps everything just east of the U.S. East Coast. Here's coastal North Carolina, just off the coast here. Could definitely cause a bit of strong winds, though, along maybe like southeastern Virginia, maybe, coastal North Carolina here. I mean, according to ECMWF, it does have that wind field getting pretty big. But yeah, definitely could see some, strong winds out there still along the coast, and, which we are likely going to be having, a bit of impacts here regardless. Like I mentioned, the wave height is going to be pretty big across a lot of the U.S. East Coast from this system. So, that's something we'll have to kind of look out there for. But yeah, let's take a look at the HWRF here, the HERF. Looking at the HERF model. We work our way down in time. The system does get bigger. Now, the HWRF really has this thing picking up some strength. I mean, look how big the thing gets. Pretty aggressive here from the HRF model at HWRF, but it does show the latest run getting down into the 920 millibar range. Definitely pretty toasty. It does show maximum winds getting up to right around 128 knots, according to this run. You got to take that with a grain of salt here. Let's do knots to miles per hour conversion. So that's at 128.6 knots. 0.6. So that's 147, 148 miles an hour. So that does keep it within Category 4. So, like I mentioned before, there's not a lot of model support that suggest otherwise getting above Cat 4. But we'll see. We'll have to see. What's up, Ghosted? Good to see ya. Theodore says, what's the chances of a Category 5? So, I wouldn't say that they're 0. As of now, it's unlikely, but that could easily change. At the peak forecast from the Hurricane Center, we're only 12 mile an hour sustained away from a Cat 5, which a Category 5 is 157 and greater. The current peak forecast has it 145 mile per hour sustained winds, which that would be there on, you can see right here, 144, 145, for the 18th at 2 p.m. on the Hurricane Center's forecast. So that would be on Monday afternoon. That's kind of the peak intensity according to the Hurricane Center and stuff here. So, not too far off from it there, but in other terms, I mean, looking at like the hurricane models and the spaghetti models and everything like that, it not really a lot of models suggest it, getting up into that type of range. So, we'll have to see. But anyways, yeah. So there's the HWRF here. I mean, showing quite a beast of a system. We're already starting to see some of that convection out here by those islands. Shouldn't be anything extremely crazy. Everything just remains north of the Virgin Islands, north of Puerto Rico. As it continues working northwest, the eye, I mean, look at that thing. I think it's pretty big. The eye gets bigger. The system's, wind field gets quite large as well. And, of course, anything beyond this point, we can't go any further. But yeah, I mean, that's just goes to show you. I mean, the system is expected to really grow in size here. So there's the this is North Carolina's coast right here. You can see everything's just off of the North Carolina coast, which is certainly good and unlikely to have any direct impacts there. Now, so this is GFS. Let's actually zoom out a bit here. We're going to take a look at the North Atlantic here. So, pulling up this view, actually, we're going to look at the West Atlantic here. Let's do that real quick. So, I mean, you can see the system is expected to be, getting quite large. Looking at our lower dynamics at our significant wave height, we are likely going to have some very, very strong waves here. According to GFS, out there by, the Mid-Atlantic here, around some of those regions like coastal North Carolina, it could be possible of, waves over 10 foot or so, which, definitely could be some pretty big waves and pretty rough conditions out there. Florida's coast here, according to GFS, does show some of those waves, getting a good maybe 5, 6 or 7 feet or so. Remember, this is just one in particular model, one model run. However, Bermuda, they're going to have a serious problem with the waves. Bermuda is actually, since it's far out to sea, it's going to be a little bit more, severe out there. So here's Bermuda, that little speck that you see here. GFS actually suggests Bermuda kind of getting in the range of maybe 25 to 30 foot waves or greater. In which, the GFS definitely shows quite a nasty amount of waves out there. So the waters are going to be extremely rough for areas out there by Bermuda. But like I've mentioned, though, I mean, along the U.S. East Coast and everything, I mean, it's definitely going to be pretty impactful, regarding a lot of those waves. I mean, even up in the Northeast here, you can see GFS does suggest some pretty big waves out here, which, I mean, you guys can see the table on the right here. So, yeah, definitely going to see some pretty big waves when it comes to the system. And once again, Bermuda, those areas are going to get it the hardest overall. Now, looking at Euro here, the ECMWF, there's really not a whole lot of difference. Actually, there is a big difference. Matter of fact, actually, Euro suggests some of those coastal regions out by, like, North Carolina, I mean, getting even worse waves. The GFS was actually a little bit more easy on it, but, yeah, you can see the Euro here, the 12 UTC run here from earlier does suggest that we could see maybe some of those waves, getting a good 15, maybe upwards of 20 foot or so, or nearly 20 foot. So, that is definitely pretty concerning, and that is going to cause maybe some coastal concerns, rip currents, some swelling, and all kinds of stuff like that in those rough seas. So it'd be very hazardous to travel in. So if you're going on a boat, it's going to get a little rough out there. But anyways, actually the thing is the Euro actually shows those waves maybe a little bit more mild for Bermuda, and I laugh whenever I say mild because it's still going to be potentially like 15 to 20 foot waves out there. Regardless, at this point, Bermuda is likely going to get some pretty rough waters, in which that's something that we really do need to look out for, and we need to avoid boating in those conditions at that point. So. But anyways, so that's that. Let's see here. What are the chances of Category 5? Did I already answer that? Like I mentioned, Cat 5 is unlikely right now. There's not a lot of model guidance supporting it, but I wouldn't rule it out completely. Let's see. Team Kenny says, thanks for these daily live streams. Of course. No problem. Let's see. I feel like it's going to get closer to Bermuda. We'll see, but model guidance keeps everything west. Bermuda's biggest issue right now is going to be those waters, that rough sea. That's going to be the main problem for Bermuda. Hopping over here back to the hurricane models, let's actually pull up the HAFSA model here. Let's pull up the 12 UTC run. So we work way farther down in time. I don't know where Bermuda is at here. Let's do the parent one, actually. Let's do HFSA parent, so it zooms out a bit. There you go. So, yeah, HFSA actually keeps things fairly just west of Bermuda as well. A lot of the models are suggesting things just to remain to the west here overall, just off the U.S. East Coast and stuff like that. But, like I mentioned, though, oh, hold on a minute. We got some breaking news coming in here. What is this? What the heck? Hold on a minute, y'all. There's a new AOI that just formed off the U.S. Mid-Atlantic coast. What's all this about? That is really fascinating. Hold on. That kind of caught me off guard. What's going on out here? Hold on. Let's do U.S. Is it talking about this bit of convection here? Or is this further down in time? It has a 10-10 chance, so... See what they say. A broad area of low pressure located offshore of the coast of North Carolina is producing disorganized showers and thunderstorms. I know you guys can't really see that. Some slight development is possible over the weekend as the low drifts slowly towards the southeast over warm waters of the Gulf Stream. Remaining offshore by Monday, environmental conditions are expected to become unfavorable for further development. Well, that's brand new. Yeah, we're also going to have to keep an eye on the MDR, too. There's been a little bit of model support of some more waves coming off Africa, which we'll have to continue watching. But anyways, moving on. That definitely caught me off guard a little bit, I ain't going to lie. Let's see. Oh, really, Justin? What, are they in the storm now? Let's see, we need the rain so bad above that green brushes white bias. I'm still hoping that takes left at Nova Scotia. I hope not. I hope it stays away from you guys. I know you guys need the rain, but you don't need the rain this way. You could use rain a different way. Yeah, a system like this would be pretty rough on you guys. But anyways, so HFSA does keep everything just west of Bermuda, just east of the U.S. East Coast here, so that's definitely good. Sea surface temperatures out here are going to be very, very warm, and actually you can see, according to HFSA, the system's really going to cool down those waters there. Possibly down into like 25 degrees Celsius at some of the streaks here. Definitely pretty crazy. It's very, very warm out there. It is super, super warm. So, as the system does get stronger and as it expands its, wind field, it's definitely gonna, pick up some strength and gain in size and stuff like that. So, but anyways, pulling up the the winds once again, it looks like we're definitely going to get some gusty winds along possibly some of the coastal areas here off the Mid-Atlantic, maybe Bermuda as well. Let's look at the HFSB parent model here. This actually has the system a little bit further to the east here. There's that low. It's kind of hard to tell, but there's that low that we just talked about with, there you go, with the Hurricane Center there. You can see there's that little itty-bitty little low. Not expected to do much here. But anyways, but yeah, I mean, HFSB does have this thing getting bigger. Talking maybe 25, maybe upwards of 30 knot sustained winds out by Bermuda here as we approach through the 20th, according to this model. So we'll have to see. But yeah, still keeping everything, the most of it. The worst of it's right in here, keeping the most of it just well away from these areas, which is definitely good. Wind shear. So, at least for the next little bit, we do have some pretty strong upper level clockwise venting going on here. That's the system really, venting out that air. In the lower atmosphere, it pulls the air in clockwise. It goes up in the storm, and then it shoots out clockwise. So lower level counterclockwise, upper level clockwise. So this is just that upper level venting here, which is, common with these systems. It happens. But, later down in the forecast here, as the system kind of pulls to the north, you really notice this really strong jet that's shooting across the U.S. Northeast, the Northeast and, going out into the North Atlantic here. This would likely allow the storm to shoot far to the right as it gets caught up in that jet, which would likely, spare areas like Nova Scotia and maybe Newfoundland, it depends, from getting a direct landfall. So we'll just have to see how that rolls out. But regardless, wind shear is terrible for tropical systems. So that would allow for the system to actually rapidly weaken as it gets caught up into that jet. But that's also going to act as, strong steering current too, and, shoot the storm further to the east. That's why it's just going to, stay away from the northeast and stuff like that. So that's definitely good news. That jet just kind of keeping everything away. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of what the wind shear situation looks like. It doesn't look like the wind shear is going to be much of a problem. Just that strong upper level venting that we got going on, and then we got that really strong jet stream. Excuse me, that'll push the thing here to the east and, kind of rapidly weaken the system, which would definitely be pretty good. Back over at the lower dynamics here, we'll actually zoom in a little bit here. You can see that, everything just remains north of the islands here. I mean, the HFSB model does have this thing, getting pretty low. I mean, 933 millibars, it's certainly pretty low. And it does show max winds up to 131 knots, which 131 would be 150 miles an hour, which, I don't see a lot of support of this thing becoming a Cat 5. I know a lot of you guys have probably been wondering that. I've seen a couple questions coming through. Is it going to be a Cat 5 or whatever? I don't think so as of now. At least for the guidance I have right now, I don't think so. But I will tell you this. It's not going to be far from a Cat 5. Given that in the forecast, once again here on the main cone, I'll go ahead and show you guys. Once we kind of really get out in these waters, you can see for the 18th at 2 p.m., I believe that's Monday. So Monday... that is going to be a Cat 4, 145 sustained. I know this is 144, but rounding 145 with gusts up to right around 175 or so. So, definitely going to be seeing some pretty strong winds regardless. And, 145 is only 12 miles an hour short from a Category 5 storm. So, yeah, it's not going to be super far off. But, it's going to go through the most strongest strengthening in these waters here. So, that'll be out in the open waters, though. Let's see here. Justin says, who cares if it's a Cat 5 fish storm, if it's not going to hit any land? Well, I mean, there's a lot of people that care, Justin. You know why? It's because a stronger storm like that generates bigger waves, and those waves will cause problems for the U.S. East Coast and Bermuda. So, yes, a lot of people care. Ghosted says I saw GFS showed a small storm after Erin. Yeah, GFS actually been pretty consistent on it, believe it or not. Here, let me go ahead and zoom out a little bit here. Let's take a look here at that. So, obviously, we can't look too far down the models. You know me, I don't like to look anything beyond like 150 because it starts to get a little iffy. But, this isn't 150 hours out. It shows that low kind of rolling off the west coast of Africa here for the 18th, which is, just a couple days away. And as it works its way to the west here, possibly gradually picking up some strength here. Now, we cannot look too far. Once again, anything beyond like 150 is a little bit unreasonable with the models. I know you have a lot of hype forecasters out there who love to look at it really far down in time and saying, "Oh my gosh, it's going to happen." No, it's not. It's too far out. But anyways, so you don't want to look too far. But there is a little bit of support, and it's been there. The previous GFS model shows it too. Previous one before that shows it as well. Previous one before that shows it in a different spot, but it's there. Previous one before that shows it. And so yeah, the last several models have supported this system, in which that could be a new trend here, and something to monitor. Absolutely. Euro, on the other hand, ECMWF here does show that tropical wave rolling off the west coast of Africa. Wouldn't be surprised if it does gain some traction soon from the Hurricane Center. We're gonna have to monitor it. But Euro, at least in the 12 UTC run, doesn't suggest it really doing a whole lot. Kind of showing the conditions not as favorable as what GFS wants to kind of show. One thing I will tell you, though, is that Euro, does actually show Erin getting a little bit closer for comfort, to the East Coast. But once again, there's no imminent danger for the East Coast. The system's likely just going to remain to the east of it. Regardless, there's probably still going to be some gusty winds along the Mid-Atlantic coast. I will tell you that. Some of those models here, and I'll go ahead and show y'all, looking at the northeast here. Actually, let's do a eastern U.S. view. There you go. So, yeah, you can see Euro here, showing some of those winds out there, near areas like Nags Head, out there in eastern North Carolina here. So, I mean, you can see, we have potential of, maybe some of those sustained winds being above 30 knots, which that's getting near tropical storm force. That's according to Euro. GFS has it a little further east, but still has, like 25, maybe upwards of 30 knots sustained, with higher gusts, of course. So, it'll probably get a little gusty, along coastal North Carolina, maybe a little bit of coastal, Virginia and stuff like that too. Could get a little bit gusty, but nothing super crazy, and I don't expect anything above really that. But like I mentioned, Bermuda, on the other hand, you can see GFS, with the wind field getting so big from this system here. You can see that Bermuda, could actually get into some of those tropical storm conditions here, which GFS has been pretty persistent on that for the last several model runs. You can see these are all individual runs that go every 6 hours, so you see how they've been pretty consistent there. Euro, on the other hand, see, the last several models does suggest that, yeah, we could see maybe 25, 30 knot sustained winds as we kind of approach right around the 20th and 21st here. So we'll have to monitor Bermuda. I would say that tropical storm conditions are definitely possible. You can see even later down in the model run, which, this is 150 hours out. Anything beyond this, it gets a little iffy, like I mentioned. But, at this point in time, you can see Bermuda is in like 40 knot winds, sustained, and that is tropical storm force, absolutely. Let's see here. Dino says, I don't think it's going to strengthen too much. Let's see, behind Erin, too much water, or too much upwelling water. Yeah, that is fair. It is definitely going to cool down those waters a bit, but it also depends on the track. It's not going to cool down all of the waters, For example, if we zoom back out here, and let's go ahead and look at a model that does suggest, or does show, I believe the HAFSA, we'll do HAFSA parent model on Erin here. Looking at the SSTs, you can actually see that there is definitely a noticeable trail behind the system, where it does cool it down. But say there's another storm system, that goes out of this trail, somewhere else, either north or south or whatever. It's still going to be in really warm waters. But it's not just relying on sea surface temperatures, as we know. Also moisture levels, humidity throughout the atmosphere, as well as wind shear, kinematics. Very important for determining strength and all kinds of stuff with tropical cyclones. So, I wouldn't say it's going to prevent any other system from happening behind it. So, looking at it from that perspective, probably not going to have as much of a big impact as you think. But at least for this track area, say if another system, followed behind shortly, went over this track, maybe it could cause a little bit of a halt, a little bit of a stutter, or, could occur, but that's beyond the forecast right now. Right now there is no other wave, or no other invest right now, but we'll see what happens. But anyways, that's that. Let's see, when did the new model runs come out? Well, it's currently 23 UTC. Right now it's 23:35 UTC. So the runs will start here in about 25 minutes, but it takes another hour or two for them to process and stuff. So It's yeah, it takes time. I'd say probably 2-3 hours or so. Could be a little longer. It depends. Let's see here. Robbie says, "Thank you for the nonstop coverage you've been doing. Much appreciated." Yeah, no problem, dude. I got you. Yeah, I'm here for you guys. No problem. I'm glad to be here, and it's just what it's going to be. Throughout hurricane season, this is always my favorite time to track. Tropics have always been my favorite to track, so I'm going to really push out some content on the tropics. Absolutely. Yeah, we'll keep you guys updated. No worries at all. But I really appreciate it, Robbie. Thank you for your support, dude. Greatly appreciate it. Anyways, but yeah, I mean, like I mentioned, also with moisture and stuff, we haven't really looked at this much yet. But you can see, I mean, the system, I mean, it really holds a lot of moisture. Moisture doesn't really seem to be much of a much of a problem here with this system here. You can look at the HAFSA, still having the system really pulling some moisture. It looks like we're going to be pulling in a bit of moisture possibly from areas like northern South America. You can see here's Central America, here's northern South America. You can see there's a pretty big pond of moisture, and some of that moisture is probably going to get kind of sucked into the storm here, which could fuel the storm a little bit more. HFSA, some other models actually, present that as well. So that's that. But yeah, moisture doesn't seem to be an issue here. Once again, the kinematics, kinematics here, we do have a really strong jet in the later forecast here overall. Once again, this is going to do a couple of things. As the system continues moving to the northeast, it's going to get caught up in that jet, and that's going to cause it to really kind of shoot its way here to the east. It's a very strong steering current. It's going to allow the storm to really kind of push away from the northeast coast. That's why I don't really think the northeast is going to have anything to concern about the system, because of this jet right here is saving y'all. But even then, I mean, if it wasn't there, it'd probably go up more towards like Nova Scotia or not. But it's not. Remember, it's not. The jet stream is going to probably save you guys pretty well. So that's definitely good. But another thing that it's going to do is, as it works its way into that jet, it's also going to rapidly weaken because tropical systems, they do not like kinematics. They do not like strong wind shear because essentially that kind of disrupts their structure, causes them to destabilize and stuff like that. So with that being said, I mean it's going to be pretty good that jet is in place. Absolutely. So in the extended range forecast, things likely just going to kind of steer away from a lot of those areas. What's up, Brady? Good to see you. Let's see. Am I coming back after the next updates? Maybe. I cannot guarantee. I hate promising things because some things pop up. So it's like I can't say yes and something pops up here. But I'm going to say maybe. We'll see. Just keep those notifications on regardless, and we'll go live if we need to. But yeah, so that's that, y'all. Let's look at another model here. Let's pull up the HMON. HMON's actually keeps everything mostly away from land, of course, which is good. But you can see all the models here do support the system just really getting big. I mean, you can see, kind of right where we're at now, roughly. We have a pretty small, compact little wind field here. Covers a couple degrees in latitude. Not anything super duper huge per se, but you can see as we go down further in time, the system gets a lot bigger. It really pulls in a lot of moisture. Once again, not much wind shear to really kind of disrupt anything, any of its organization. The water's extremely warm out there, like 30 degrees Celsius, 29, 30 degrees. Super, super warm, and that'll really allow for the storm to enable and get a lot bigger. What's up, Mark? Saying late check-in, flat tire, all good. Oh, that's not good, dude. Well, I'm glad that you're doing good now. It's good to see you, my friend. Hopefully you're doing well. It's been a minute, huh? How'd your, you said you moved, right? How'd your move go? Anyways. But yeah, I can't promise if I'll be back at the 11 o'clock update or not, but I'll consider it. It just depends. Just depends. All right, y'all. Well, let's hop back over here for a minute. So like I mentioned, actually, we got some new development here. Hurricane Center, they highlighted a new area just off the U.S. East Coast here, off the Mid-Atlantic coast. system. Don't worry about it. It's not going to do anything. Probabilities are 10% overall, which is a 1 in 10 shot of it. Maybe a quick-lived, tropical depression, whatever. Yeah, not a lot of models really pick up on anything crazy with this system. However, Erin, though, yeah, Erin's the one we do need to keep an eye out there for. Absolutely. Here, let me pull up the MDR again so you guys can see the current sat view. It's got some real heavy convection to the east of the to the east of the core. And it kind of looks like that the center is kind of on the northern side of the cone here. Oh, is that an eye starting to form? Y'all. That's some clearing going on there. Y'all see that? I think that's the eye trying to peek through. Well, I'll be darned. Look at that, man. Let's pull up the visible here. Oops. Well, that didn't work. Why is this broken? Goodness! Getting all funky on us here. Dude, I think that's the eye, man. I think that's the eye. See RGV, I see the eye wall forming. Are they in the hurricane right now? Yes, they are. It looks like we have more missions going in, too. Holy cow. Let me bring this up for y'all. Dang, dude. Wow. We're going to have a big update. The next update that comes through, I think, what, 11 o'clock? Dude, they found pressure down in 984. So in the top left, that's the latest Hurricane Center's update that they have here. Dude, 984 millibars. Yeah, the last update has it at 993. So this thing is likely pushing maybe 80, 85 mile an hour sustained right now. Yeah, I would not be surprised if this thing is upwards of 80, 85 miles an hour. Dude, that's crazy. Oh, look at that. Whoa, dude. So flight level winds here. You can see we peaked at about 80 knots. This is a little bit ago. This was when? About almost an hour or so ago. Let's see. So that shows 80 knots. That would push us to about 90. But remember, that's flight level. Probably a little bit stronger up there. Yeah, dude. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if that was near... yeah, would not be surprised if that's near 80, 85 miles an hour at this point. Goodness. But yeah, there it is, dude. I think that's the eye trying to peek through. Do pull up the infrared here. Let's see. It must be a fun ride for those hurricane hunters. Just a slight turbulent path. Yeah. Just a nice smooth flight with a little bit of turbulence. Let's see. I think we'll have more of a classic hurricane signature by either tonight or tomorrow. While potentially being 10 to 20 nautical I can't even English. Holy cow. 10 to 20 nautical miles wide. I mean, like I mentioned, from what it looks like now, it does look like that eye is starting to form. At least it's trying to clear out an eye here. Dude. And like I mentioned here, I mean, looking at the infrared here, you can see we have a lot of really deep convection just southwest of the core. Some really deep convection going on. We got great venting going on, too. I mean, you guys can see this this clockwise spiral. So that's the venting process of these systems. So basically, like I mentioned, in the lower atmosphere, they suck in a lot of air, of course, and moisture, whatever. It all gets sucked into the system, and then it spins around, and then it starts shooting out the top clockwise, which is pretty neat. A big old corkscrew. But yeah, you can see those little lines there, and the upper level venting. It's looking pretty good. It's definitely doing very well. But yeah, we've actually had some of those outer bands already kind of roll through some of the areas out here. Let's see. Oh, there you go. Here's the radar. Some of those outer bands here you can kind of see. We do have a Puerto Rico radar. I'm going to be really curious to see once that system kind of squeezes by, which will be tomorrow afternoon, tomorrow evening, going into the morning of the 17th as well, Sunday. Yeah, I'm gonna be really curious to see that little moment, that little window where it just kind of squeezes through the radar here. Bermuda has a radar too. Depending on how close it gets, we'll have to look at it as it passes through. Brady, I have no idea. I don't keep up with surfing championships. Is there any cameras on those islands? Probably, but we don't have any licenses for them, so I can't share them without getting risk of copyrighted. So, but even then, it probably wouldn't be nothing more than just dark clouds. Yeah, you know. One thing I do wonder though is, do we have any buoys out here? Here, let me hop y'all over here real quickly while I look. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna keep y'all right here. Let's see. See if we got any buoys out here. We do got a buoy to the north. What's going on with this guy? Significant wave height, 12.8 foot. Ooh. Hey, yo. Y'all, we do got a few buoys in the path, though. Look at that. Especially this guy. This buoy. We're going to have to keep an eye on this one. We're going to have to keep a real close eye on this buoy. Oh, dude. Yeah. This buoy is right in the middle of that cone there. That buoy's going to be rocking. I tell you what. That buoy's going to be really feeling it. So, yeah, we'll definitely keep an eye on that buoy, I tell you. Sheesh. Do the outer bands produce gust fronts similar to typical storm systems with higher winds? I haven't really seen it, but I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, the gust fronts are really formed from strong downdrafts, you know, kind of smacking the surface and pushing out in all directions. You know, sometimes kicking up dust and all kinds of stuff. A lot of those outer bands are really strong updraft systems. I haven't seen any though personally, so I wouldn't doubt it. But yeah, no, they have been getting a little bit of rain out here from the system. Anyways, but if you guys have any questions, y'all, let me know. We're here for you. Here's a new update on the spaghetti models, the 18 UTC. Hopefully we'll get the 0 UTC runs in a little bit. Probably won't be live though whenever we get them. But yeah, this is the latest spaghetti. Yeah, you can see the system is just gradually working northwest. It's going to steer over the next 3-4 days. And like I said, that upper level jet, that really strong jet stream is going to be getting to it and knocking the thing further eastward. So that's good. So yeah, it's not going to threaten the U.S. East Coast or like the Northeast or anything like that. Now, like I mentioned, it's a little early to call for Newfoundland. You know, areas out there by like Newfoundland should monitor it still. There is a few bit of models that supports the system maybe kind of getting pulled up towards Newfoundland. We'll see. It's not guaranteed. You know, like I mentioned, Bermuda. You know, honestly, I mean, yes, the worst of the system is going to be west, but I would not be surprised if there is some form of tropical storm watch being issued for Bermuda. And the reason I say that is because there is a lot of models that show at least 30, 40 sustained, or 30, 40 knots sustained winds over Bermuda. So that's that. Did the next wave come off Africa? Not yet. It'll be doing that in about 2-3 days or so. But yeah, but as of right now, Hurricane Center does not mention any of it. I wouldn't be surprised though if soon they put another AOI in the MDR. AOI's area of interest, MDR's main development region. Just for people who don't know what me abbreviating it is. But yeah, here's some more model support. This is the GEFS model. You can see. You know, the little members here keep everything away from the U.S. East Coast here. You know, keeping everything well far away. There's a few members that still support it going near Bermuda, but you can see majority here have it just well to the west. At that point, Yeah, that definitely does seem like the most probable outcome here. Here's the GEPS ensembles here. You can see the GEPS has the system also doing the same thing. Just most likely keeping its way well away from areas of land. Bermuda still got a few of those members getting near, but unlikely considering most of those are to the west here. Very unlikely. So it's kind of forecasted to pull the best case scenario, which let's hope it stays. But yeah, but we'll have to see what happens. Not a lot of guidance on it going near Newfoundland or Nova Scotia, of course. Like I mentioned, we do have some really strong. We have a really strong jet stream that's going to be rolling over this area at the time the system approaches. So that's just going to continue to knock the storm further to the east here, which will definitely be pretty good. But yeah, so that's the models there. I mean, things look pretty good. Once again, on the cone of uncertainty here, Bermuda's just outside of it. One thing, though, while the United States is not expecting any direct impacts, we're still going to have some concerns with the system, and that's actually being a lot of coastal issues. At this time of the year, there's a lot of people on the beach. A lot of people like to go to the beach and stuff like that. But you all got to know this system's going to cause some issues. It's going to really move around some water, So, throughout the U.S. East Coast, we're going to have a lot of rip currents being a big problem, for most, if not all, the coastline here of the U.S. East Coast. Same thing for Bermuda. It's going to be really bad out by Bermuda regardless. Bringing back over the models here for y'all, I can show you what I'm talking about. So here's GFS. We take a look out here in the Western Atlantic. So that little speck there, that is Bermuda. So that's Bermuda right there. So looking at our significant wave height, you can see, I know Bermuda's kind of hard to see, but it's right here, so keep an eye on that. GFS, latest run, does have, some of Bermuda kind of being within, I guess you can see the key here. So Bermuda being right there, we're kind of like 25, maybe 30-foot waves here according to the GFS out there. So really, aggressive waters out there. And, even for the U.S. East Coast, you could see like all of the U.S. East Coast is pretty much getting, pretty heavy waves. Through a lot of the U.S. East Coast, we're talking at least, 5, maybe 10 foot, overall. Definitely could cause, some coastal flooding and stuff like that to occur too, as we start to get a lot more water being pushed against the shore. So that's something to keep an eye on there too. And then Euro is not far off from it either. Actually being a little bit more aggressive for the U.S. mid-Atlantic coast, out there by like North Carolina. You can actually see, for some of those regions, we're kind of near like maybe 10 to 15 foot or more, in some of those regions there. Definitely is, certainly is pretty aggressive there. So that's kind of the big concern. Also, having Bermuda there too, a little bit less, less aggressive is like the GFS suggests, but still we're upwards of 20-foot waves. Still going to be very aggressive. So, yeah, Bermuda does need to prepare for rough seas because at this point in time, that's basically a given. That's likely going to happen. Also, Bermuda wouldn't rule out potential for tropical storm conditions either. Given that a lot of the models do support the potential, at least briefly. Here's the 12Z, ECMWF, showing a good maybe 35, 40 knot sustained winds here. If you grab a little sounding here, you can see we have a little 30 knot wind barb down there. And also like GFS, GFS has actually a little bit more aggressive here, which we'll grab another little sound. You can see, about 45 knots sustained. So that would push it in tropical storm force conditions, which, honestly, we, can't really rule that out. I think it is certainly possible that we could get some tropical storm conditions. CMC, on the other hand, CMC model also agrees too. As well, showing maybe 40 knots, stuff like that. So also Icon, looking at Icon. Icon, y'all, is weird. I do not trust the Icon. The Icon's been nothing but aggressive, just absolutely insanity. Icon is not really the most accurate model in my opinion. But yeah, I'm not going to take too much from Icon, considering I know its track record. It's it's a little bit it's a little iffy, but anyways. But yeah, I mean, certainly have to look out for. Here's the HWRF parent, model here. Does this show wave height? It does not, unfortunately. But yeah, you can see that definitely the wind field gets quite large. I mean, you can just see how big it gets. Latest HWRF does show maybe the pressure getting down into the 920s, which would likely push us in the upper level category 4. I mean, Hurricane Center, they have us in kind of a mid level cat 4 on the forecast track already, so we'll have to see. Let's see here. Sean says it's strengthening fast. Yeah, I think, yeah, it definitely is. Oh, look at that. They updated it. Look at the top. Dude, I was on the money, man. I was on the money. Y'all saw me. Okay, if y'all were been here for a minute or two, remember how earlier I said I would not be surprised if it's 80, 85 miles an hour? Look at the top left. We are now sustained at 85, pressure down to 982 millibars. Dude, man. Did I not say that? I'm sorry. I'm just... I gotta... I have to take that credit. I ain't gonna lie. I mean, yeah, not really surprising though. But yeah, I mean, HWRF, you can see here, has the system just getting bigger. I mean, the wind field gets massive. It's absolutely huge. It's pretty small right now. The little wind field, you can see it's really not that big. So pretty small wind field right now. But yeah, once we go farther down in time, you can see that wind field is only going to get bigger. Some models even show it way bigger than this, like GFS, you can see. Let me zoom out first. Yeah, GFS here, let's do West Atlantic. GFS does show that wind field getting pretty big. Also, once again, showing kind of Bermuda getting in the tropical storm force. 45 knot sustained winds here. This shows it for the 21st. We're just going to have to monitor it, but yeah, I mean, Bermuda should definitely not let their guard down. I do need Bermuda to monitor this closely. So we'll see. See, it's on video. We got proof. Yeah. Sean says, where is she going? I mean, more than likely, the system is just going to be mostly out to sea. But like I mentioned, though, here's the spaghetti models. We do have some pretty good agreement here in the models. So the next 3 days or so, gradual northwesterly movement. Days 4 or 5, we start pulling north, and then days 6 plus, we shoot to the northeast here. Here's Bermuda. Once again, the system will likely remain west of Bermuda, just east of the U.S. East Coast. So both of these areas are not expected to have direct landfall. However, there still will definitely be effects. Bermuda, like I mentioned, potential tropical storm conditions. Would not be surprised at some point. We might have some tropical storm watches. Just have to continue watching it. I do need Bermuda to watch it. I think tropical storm conditions is possible. And then, of course, in terms of the U.S. East Coast, I think the main concern for us here, along most of the beaches, is going to be rough waters. I mean, like we mentioned, some of those waters out there could be quite rough. Hopping over here to the, let's do the eastern U.S. view. Here we go. So yeah, so looking at that, pulling up those wave heights, you can see that the waves are going to get pretty darn rough out there, and you can see there's the key, so you guys can kind of match up the colors here. Some of the mid-Atlantic coast will probably get some of the worst of it, maybe upwards of 10 to maybe 15 foot waves or whatnot. Could be possible. But yeah, out there by Bermuda, it could get a lot more significant. There's Bermuda right here. You can see a little speck. They're kind of up in the range of maybe 25, 30, 35 foot or whatnot. So that's, yeah, pretty aggressive. Definitely pretty aggressive. So we'll have to... We'll just have to keep an eye on that. But yeah, so yeah, U.S. East Coast definitely going to feel those waves. Bermuda feel those waves the most. And like we mentioned, even tropical storm conditions I think are very possible. But, there still is a lot of unknown. If the system does track further west, that would lower the chances of Bermuda getting tropical storm force winds. If the system kind of remains on track, could allow for it. And if it does take a little bit more of an easterly track, that could definitely put Bermuda in some even stronger conditions. So we'll have to just monitor it. Bermuda's not out of the woods yet, of course. The U.S. East Coast looks pretty safe. I don't think the U.S. East Coast is going to get the system. But regardless, we are going to have some pretty rough waters out there. And, rip currents are going to be a huge problem. So if you're going to the beach, I wouldn't recommend getting in the water because, those strong currents can pull you out to sea very quickly. So, definitely be careful there. Would not recommend it. So, anyways. Let's see here. Cape Cod has trouble with nor'easters and erosion. Yeah. Well, Cape Cod, or is it Sable Island? Why am I thinking Sable Island? Why was I thinking you were talking about Sable Island for a minute? Well, Cape Cod out here. I think Cape Cod somewhere over here. Pretty sure this is Cape Cod, right? Yeah, thankfully the system will be just east of those areas because, like I mentioned beforehand here, let's move this over. So, like I mentioned beforehand, as Erin does work its way north, it's going to get severely pushed to the east because of this strong jet that we're going to have over, flowing over the northeast coast, or sorry, just over the northeast in general. So that'll cause the system to start to weaken too as it starts to destabilize. That the wind shear gets to it. It'll also, really push the storm. It's acting as a very strong steering current as well. So, yeah, that's that. But anyways, folks, well, that's really about all I can tell you right now. I mean, we basically went over everything that we need to. A little bit of a summary. Bermuda, I need you guys to watch out if you're in Bermuda. I think Bermuda could still have some decent concerns. Once again, those waves could be 20, 30 foot or so. Still not too sure on that yet. Depends on the track, the strength, the size, all that stuff. But I think regardless, Bermuda is definitely going to be having some really big problems with the waves, coastal issues, some flooding, possibly coastal flooding. Just really, really rough seas out there. I think that's going to be a super, super big concern here, overall. And then, of course, maybe some tropical storm conditions as well. I think that Bermuda could, potentially see some tropical storm conditions as, a handful of the models do suggest that. And then lastly, the U.S. East Coast here. I don't think we're going to have any direct landfall, of course. We're not expecting that. I doubt it'll happen. However, we could definitely get some strong winds, and if we, there could be some gusty winds along the U.S. East Coast, especially out there by, like, North Carolina, kind of sticks out there a little bit. Some of the models suggested maybe 25, 30 knot sustained winds. Some models, anyways. So we could see some gusty winds out there by the coastal areas of, like, North Carolina, but nothing, significant. I doubt anything even tropical storm-related. We'll have to see. And then, of course, for pretty much the entire U.S. East Coast, of course, we're going to have the big waters, the swelling, of course, and all that stuff. So we'll definitely keep you guys up to date. We'll make sure to keep you guys staying weather aware and prepared and stuff like that. But thankfully, it looks like the system is just going to kind of veer out and go out to sea. So that's definitely good. But it's going right between Bermuda and the U.S. It couldn't be any more of a close call. So. Anyways, maybe, Chris. Maybe. It depends. The thing is, though, about tropical systems is there's usually not a lot of lightning. The only time you really get lightning within the main hurricane is usually in the eye wall, and that's usually a sign of rapid strengthening, which, as the system does approach... or as it continues strengthening, I wouldn't be surprised if there's going to be quite a bit of lightning in the eye wall. It's typical. But for the U.S. East Coast, system's going to be pretty far off. I don't think you're going to see any lightning. No. What's up, Daily? Hope you're doing good. But anyways, folks, well, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for now. How's Connecticut looking? Connecticut's fine. The system here is just going to be east of you guys. Really not seeing any big concerns for Connecticut. You got Long Island kind of blocking you too. So Connecticut, yeah, not seeing much of any concerns at all. The good news is, like we mentioned, as the system pulls north, we have some really strong jet stream activity, over the northeast, and that'll kind of steer it away from the northeast and possibly protecting like Nova Scotia as well, which would be good. Not too sure on Newfoundland. Newfoundland will possibly be okay. Well, from not a lot of I can't even English. Not a lot of model support suggested going out there by Newfoundland, but most of it just has it kind of squeezed into the east here because of that strong jet that we do have over the northeast, which will be good. So that'll kind of carry it away. But anyways, let's see. Ghost says, thank you for all the updates. Of course, that's what I'm here for, you guys. Absolutely. And, we'll keep you guys updated. We might do 11. We might go live again tonight. Not promising anything. No promises. But we might go live again for the 11 o'clock update. No promises. Once again, this very well could be the last one for tonight. But regardless, if we don't go live again tonight, turn on those notifications in case if we do. That way you'll get notified. But if we don't go live tonight, we'll go live tomorrow afternoon and again tomorrow evening. We were going to do a morning one, but I had some people come over and work on some stuff, so couldn't have done an update this morning. But we got the evening update in for you guys, so that's what matters. But anyways, you're welcome, Abby. No problem. No problem, Daily. No problem, Brady. You guys are very welcome. But all right, everybody. Well, that's going to go ahead and wrap it up for now. Thank you all for joining. If you're new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button. Be greatly appreciated. And if you haven't already, consider leaving a like as well on your way out. It'd be greatly appreciated. And most importantly, if you guys could share the channel to help spread awareness, it would be greatly appreciated. That way we can guarantee to help out more people, which would be really, really good. Helping out the more the better. But alrighty, hope to see you at 11. No promises, but I will work. I'll think about it. I'd say about a 50-50 shot. I'll go live again. So, all right, everybody. Y'all take care. Have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. And alrighty, y'all stay safe out there. Catch you on the next one. Peace out, my friends. See ya later on.